To get rid of.
Larry O'Connor here at CPAC 2012, and we're interviewing Steve Bannon, film director from The Undefeated, of course.
And my wingman on the Victory Sessions
right.
on the Breitbart live streaming.
So for those of you who are still watching this, who haven't had enough of us, we've had a trailer up, Steve, at Breitbart TV for the last 24 hours, and it's on fire for Occupied Unmasked. Talk to us about this.
Well, you know, Andrew had approached me a couple of months ago with all the coverage and footage you guys had on Breitbart TV that really were, I think, with Verum Serum, were two of the guys that really changed the narrative. And I think the video that you guys had up on Breitbart TV over all those months changed the narrative. I really didn't understand the story of Occupy. And I sat down with Andrew and really drilled down on this. I got very excited and I said, look, I talked to Dave Bossie, who controls and runs Citizen Giant Studio. I said, look, if we can do a film that actually gets people like Brandon Darby and Lee Stranahan and Anita Moncrief and Pam Key, and these people who were...
These are all people who were from the left, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nobody in this film, nobody in this film has really come from the right. There have been people like David Horowitz and Andrew Breitbart and Moncrief and Pam Key and even Christian Hartzog. All people who were there and kind of either, moderate liberals all the way to far left.
Yeah.
And it tells about their pilgrimage and also about the underbelly of this professional left infrastructure that is underneath the Occupy movement. I said, to me, that's an exciting story. And so Dave Bossie agreed. He's very excited about it. Andrew's taking a major, he's going to co-write it with me. We're deep into production of this thing. We plan on having it come out late April, May. But I got to tell you, it's one of the most exciting projects I've worked on. I told somebody the other day, it's like the first war film I've ever made.
Huh, that's interesting. And I got to tell you, being in the room when the trailer first ran, everyone was holding their breath. All the clips and the cuts of the hatred and the mocking and everything that you see there, it really does feel like a war film because you see these people dressed like ninjas. And
well, what's interesting is that Andrew actually said at the press conference, at the blogger conference, is that this will be an X-rated movie. And I just introduced the Palin film. When I made the Palin film, the first cut, as I told the audience, it was NC-17. It was unrated because of vulgarity and all the images.
Everything that was directed towards Sarah Palin.
Images of violence against her. I had to cut it to PG-13. When I started seeing the footage and pulling the footage together to make the trailer, I said, gosh, we could have this trailer, quite frankly. There's other things we could have put it in there to make it an unrated trailer. I mean, the images of violence in this and the vulgarity is so, some of the stuff you've recorded over the weekend just here at CPAC, it is going to shock a middle-class audience because the mainstream media has not pulled this story together at all. This has really been done by new media, but even in new media, you get it in hits, and you have to follow the narrative over a long period of time. Here,
and across many different posts and everything. There's no one definitive.
And that's what we're trying to do here is make a comprehensive view of this, both visually and with people coming in and talking about it. That I think could be quite compelling. The stuff we've got so far is really exciting.
Can I go back to one thing that you said there? You talked about the organized left behind the Occupy movement. One thing that's striking in the trailer is you hear Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama and other people from the left talking about how organic this is and how natural it is. It's just kids who are getting together because they're coalescing around an idea. The films that you're suggesting that there's something else there.
Well, Larry, here's what it is. One of the reasons I got interested in doing it, and now as I've seen it, the film's going to have two parts. Part is the organized left and the infrastructure that's planned this for a while. The second is how the political left has used this as a messaging device and using it incredibly successfully. When the film starts off in August, the first week of August of 2011, we're having a national discussion about our debt, about increasing the debt ceiling for the first time in American history, about negotiating. It was always just done. We're talking about the Tea Party, we're talking about deficits, we're talking about spending, we're talking about out-of-control government. From September 15th, less than 45 days later, the whole dialogue and narrative changes to income inequality and the 1% versus the 99%. That was because of the mainstream media's complicity in this, the political left, the progressive left, knowing they were going to use this as a messaging device, and then the professional left being underneath it as kind of what I call the brown shirts. The thing that's disturbing about the movie, and I think you guys at Breitbart TV have done a great job with Brandon Darby and others recording this week at CPAC, which is just a bunch of conservatives coming together to have speeches and workshops. There's 11,000 people. The average age is 27. Most of these are college kids. Is to see government employee unions, to see union thugs, to see anarchists out there to try to stop people from which you would never see anybody on the right ever try to do, to stop people from assembling it. And you see the violent nature. I got to tell you, this organized left, in which you're going to see in the film, is what I consider the brown shirts. Lagarde, the French finance minister, is now head of the IMF. And she she made a very chilling comment 3 weeks ago that this film will bring out. When she was pitching this idea that we need $1 trillion bailout fund and all the Europeans have to participate to bail out, the comment she made was, if we don't do this, we're going to have our 1930s moment. And I found that very chilling. That the Times of London, the Daily Telegraph, everybody, the German papers, everybody had that in the headline. And I think you see from Occupy Wall Street, you start to see how the brown shirts operated. You start to see it as an instrument of intimidation.
Sure, it's a bullying tactic.
Bullying tactic, and that is what this film is going to show you. The bullying tactics, but it's going to show you how successful they were in complicit with the mainstream media of really changing the narrative. This whole income inequality, and we're going to have President Obama's speeches and show how this thing kind of marches way.
This is what I want to bring in. The last question would be, let's talk about the newest country in the European Union, the United States.
Great point.
The use of the
You're finally listening to my stuff on the show. I'm glad to hear.
I'm a groupie. The use of the term income inequality.
Yes.
You hear Republicans using that term now.
Well, they bought into
the talk just really quickly, because this was part of the press conference when you released the film, how insidious and how Orwellian that concept is. Income inequality, as if income is supposed to be equal.
Yes.
It takes for granted the idea that it's supposed to be equal.
Even, the thing you should look at is the bottom boats rising up. The top, the average income in the United States is $44,000. They talk about the 1%. At $34,000, you're in the top 1% of incomes globally. Right. So it's not about the spread. It's not about the spread. It's about, are the boats rising? Right. Is the bottom rising at a more rapid rate? So it's about wealth creation. It's about growth of those opportunities. So I think they've used a European term, but I got to tell you, they've been very successful in that regard. Bill Maher said the other night on a show on Friday, he said, "Gosh," he says, "I kind of feel like Newt." I think the paraphrase says, "I kind of feel like Newt Gingrich. I think these guys ought to get a job now." The McPherson Square guys. He says, because we already have income inequality on the table as the topic.
There you go.
So that's kind of the punchline, right? And I think what we're going to try to show, as Andrew and the Breitbart sites are so good at, how's the media messaging been in this? As you have this one through line of kind of a war film, and I call it like Bloody Kansas to the Civil War. It's the preamble for what's to come. You'll see all the themes played out in this thing. As you see this violent instrument of intimidation, you'll see another more sophisticated layer of the Bill Ayers and the progressive left, and how these unions, and how these people know how to drive a media narrative. And I hope it's a wake-up call, not just for the conservative right, but it's a wake-up call for middle-class America of what's really being played here.
Bloody Kansas did not work out very well, at least in the short term.
And I got to tell you, I don't think this one's going to work out well either.
All right, so it's Occupied Unmasked, and we should look for it from Citizens United.
Citizens United, we're really crashing now on this production. We hope late April, early May, but when it's ready, it's ready. But we're going to get. Dave has been so enthusiastic about the response so far and going viral and all that. He's looking to try to do this in the limited theatrical run and then get it out on pay-per-view and all that.
Well, sneak some clips over to us as it's in progress. I think we will like it. Steve Bannon,
great Steve
very full plate with Steve Bannon. He's the busiest man in the conservative movement, but I'm just lucky to be in the wake and glow of his aura. Larry O'Connor, Breitbart News, CPAC 2012.
Thanks, guys.